Welcome, everyone. We are live. Thank you so much for joining us on day number 3 of AI Literacy Week, a week that is just packed full of resources for teachers to better understand this technology called AI that seems to be all around us all of a sudden, but has been here for quite some time. So today we are going to be I am joined by several friends of mine. Aaron from WeWillWrite. I've got Josie, who's a teacher who I think is at school right now, and I've got Shannon Miller with me as well, who's joining us from the Future Ready Librarian world. I am so excited to dig into today's show. We have so much to get through before the panel discussion, which is coming up in 30 minutes, so stay tuned for that as well. But here's some housekeeping stuff. You'll already see down in the bottom, we're going to be playing a WeWillWrite game, and we need you to participate. So get out your phone, get a new tab on your computer, go to that web address, join.wewillwrite.com, and put in that code, and we will start that game in just a minute, but we need to get some folks in there. So join us. Also, you'll notice that we are streaming to 5 different platforms. On all of those platforms, we're monitoring the chat. So if you have something to say, or you have a question for one of the audience members, you just throw it in there and we will be sure to bring that forward. So excited to be introducing the folks that we have today. I'm going to first bring up Josie and let her introduce herself, and she is going to conduct our game today. Josie, how are you?
Hey, I'm Josie Wozniak. I am in Southern California in the United States. I see there's people from like all over. I'm a middle school teacher. I'm also an ambassador for WeWillWrite, and I'm so excited to present this tool to you. It's just really changed the culture of writing in my class.
Wow. Oh, 15 people, 17 people.
That's good.
All right, folks, this is your 30-second countdown reminder. You've got to get into this game because we've got a lot to get through. So if you want to play the game right now, go to join.wewillwrite.com, put in the code 536210. It's on your screen. And yeah, Josie.
Tell me when to start.
I think we should start. It's all about defining AI literacy. So this is a writing tool. I say we start at 2021 is pretty good. Let's do it.
All right.
Sorry,
so
you didn't make it in. Ooh.
So we're going to start with, you'll be randomly sorted into 4 teams. So we have the tigers, the bears, the giraffes, and the bulls. Notice there is a countdown. Your challenge today is all about AI literacy. So as soon as that bar runs, you'll see the prompt. What's AI literacy to you, and how do you plan to support it in your classroom this year? We are looking for the most interesting ideas. So when that bar on the upper right-hand corner runs out, you'll be prompted to write, and you'll have about 4 minutes to write, and then we'll show you how the rest of the game works. As you're writing, yeah?
Sorry. No, go ahead.
As you're writing, you'll see tools on the left and right of your screen. One of those tools, if there's a question mark, it'll give you tips and prompts for what exactly to write about or what you should be thinking about. And on the right side, you're going to see some sentence starters from other people on your team if you are kind of stuck for how to start. So at this point, your challenge is on. You have 4 minutes. And as you can see on my screen, each team, their words are being counted. So at this time, I think it's the tigers are at 43 words. The giraffes.
That's the number of words the team has typed. Oh,
yeah, which is not the game. You know, it's not about writing how many words, but it's just something to kind of motivate them.
And is it motivating? Like, do the kids like to look up and see the board and be like, our team needs to write more words?
They do, because I treat it like one of those amusement park games where like the horse race is, and I'm like, and the bears are in the lead, and you know, that kind of thing. They get really excited about that. But I try not to talk too much during this writing time because I don't want to distract them. So they really feel how long 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, however long you've set the time for. They really feel how long that is and how much they can write during that time. So these short bursts are really very good for like building stamina and fluency.
Now, I know we're only playing one writing challenge, but normally in a class, you would sort of have several of these writing prompts in a row with gaps in between.
So usually a writing challenge can anywhere be like, you could just do 1, 2, or 3 minute challenge, or you could do several in a row that all tied together, and that could take up, a whole class period. It kind of just depends on what your goal is. So some teachers use it to write the different parts, of a narrative. I use it a lot in my history class where we're writing from the perspective of different historical figures. It can be as short or as long as you want. I know some teachers that use it as a morning quick write. It just kind of depends. I use it as a review tool before a test. We use it to practice certain skills like writing hooks or using voice. So it really kind of depends on how much you put into it. That's how much you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's crazy to hear you say the kids would write the whole class period. I'm just thinking.
They love this game.
If we have a tool out there that can get students to write for the whole class period, why wouldn't we use it?
They really, they ask for it. They enjoy the visuals. The images that they have as prompts are beautiful. The prompts are really interesting, and you can create your own challenges, so you can tie it directly into your curriculum. It's just a really versatile tool.
That's something good to point out too, Josie. You're using one of the prompts that is currently in a batch of prompts from the main page of WeWillWrite.
Right.
And so teachers can go and use this prompt set immediately. And there's a bunch of them in there that are about digital literacy, AI literacy, just sort of the start of the year, creating some of those digital norms and things like that. So just wanted to point out, if you go to WeWillWrite.com, you can find everything that we're using.
There's a huge library of already made challenges. So it's, if it has what you need, there's virtually no prep on the teacher's part. They just put it on and the kids log in. And
I see a countdown happening.
Yes, there's 1 second.
I'm sure the kids will all do the countdown.
So you're going to see a self-assessment screen. So you're going to assess how you felt you did. And then now you are going to read and assess. So at this point in the game, you are going to read and vote. Now it's set for 10 minutes. I think that's a little bit long.
That's way mucho.
Yeah, I think we have this is a new feature that you can actually extend the reading time for those that need that, but I don't think it's needed now.
No, so I'll let it go for 1 more minute, maybe, or do you want me to stop it now?
1 more minute, maybe.
Okay. So when it hits that 9. So this is a really good feature because some kids need a longer time to read and process the information that they are voting on. So you can extend it. It's usually maybe they get 2 or 3 minutes, but you can extend it to 10, which is really helpful, especially for some of the students who need extra time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop for the purpose of the game. You should have been able to vote. And now the most interesting texts are ready and they're going to be brought up on the screen. And this is the point where you as the teacher are going to get some AI feedback on the writing, and you're going to walk through the text with the students. So the first one, we have AI literacy is about learning to use AI responsibly and with purpose and intention for educational gain. So as you can see here, the AI built into this brings up literary devices or any kind of, figurative language, use of description. So here it's pointing out that this person has provided a definition. All right, so then we go to the next one. AI literacy is all about the ability to understand how artificial intelligence works and how to use it ethically and responsibly. AI's role in student learning is highly dependent on their teachers right now. Those who embrace AI will experience AI a lot, and those who don't will not. Oh, that's very good. All right, so this person has also written a definition, and there's a cause and effect relationship. So you can imagine as students are writing, especially if they have to write descriptively or whatever, the elements of their writing that makes it good are being given to the teacher so they can immediately talk about it on the spot. All right, so point to literary techniques in this one. AI literacy is multifaceted. It is having a good understanding of what AI is, but also being able to use it effectively. I am not currently in the classroom, but I try to emphasize AI literacy in the work I'm doing for my consulting business and with my own children too. As part of my work in teaching AI literacy, I'm excited to introduce teachers to a lot of AI tools that are capable of saving them time and increasing student engagement. Some of my favorite tools are Brisk Teaching, Puripod, TeachAid, WeWillWrite is a new favorite, mine too. AI literacy is key for teachers, students, and parents. And obviously this person got cut off because they were just so amazing. Here we have a definition. This person has provided an example and also used some justification. So as the students are writing in whatever challenge, the things to talk about and discuss with the students are being picked out. And that's where you can stop and have your conversations about what makes the writing good. Yes. And then this is, I believe, the last one. I'm sorry. Yes.
I think folks are able to copy what they wrote, right? Like, so students, you've gotten to this point in the class, you're having these great discussions, and now you're saying, okay, let's take this writing to the next level. And of course, you know, I'm a big fan of Book Creator. They're prompted to make a copy of their text, right?
Yes. So at the end of the game, after all the winners are done, I'm just going to go through this so we can hurry along. Now you're going to vote. Yes, the students are prompted to they can copy and paste, and they're given a prompt, you know, you may copy and paste at this time. So they can take that writing, they can copy and paste it into another document. They can copy and paste it into Book Creator, which is what we're going to show, to develop it more, you know, to create a final draft version of it. So this is very first draft writing. It's to get all their ideas on the page. Here we have a winner. And then at the end, all of the texts are, you know, present. You can point out other ones. It gives you a total word count. So you can, you know, let's try to write more next time, that kind of thing. You can click on any of those texts. It brings it up for the teacher.
And it's now you can copy, the students can copy their text with the clipboard at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are out there watching and you have played this game, we actually have a place for you to take your text to. Katie Fielding's in the background sharing awesome codes like this one. You can join this library. So if you go to app.bookcreator.com and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see a join library code. Right? Boy, I got a lot of libraries. Right here, join a library at the bottom. When you click on that, you can type that code in here, and you are going to join this library that's been shared. Let me just go back because I didn't really expect to do that. This library, all right? And when you join here, it's going to make a copy of this book. As you can see here, this is an assigned book. And inside the book, you can take that copy and pasted stuff and add it in and replace these text boxes. And oh, if you want to take a picture of yourself and remove the background, you can do that too. But that's a fun little activity. We wanted to show you that connection because that's a really basic idea that you as teachers can just run with, right? This could be a writing journal in the morning that the students use. We will write every day, and then they're putting these prompts in here, and you can watch the development of the writing. This could be something that you're using to build out the whole story. Like Josie just said, this is all first draft. You can take it into Book Creator. So this is just one example of how we would take students right from WeWillWrite right into Book Creator. And I want to thank you so much for Josie for coming on, running that for us again, for doing another game for us. We know that you're using that with your students and they are absolutely loving it in your classroom. And so we couldn't not have you back on. But what I want to do now is sort of shift our focus a little bit because Josie was talking about something that I think is really, really important. And she's saying, this is where the AI is doing the work for you as the teacher. And we know that like time-saving pieces is all really important. But Aaron, I would love for you to step in here a little bit and talk a little bit about what's happening behind the scenes and why why you've
Yep.
chosen to use AI in these ways.
Yes. So let me introduce myself. My name is Erlend Høiner, and I'm responsible for content and pedagogy at WeWillWrite. I'm also a middle and high school teacher. So I want to just touch on three things: how to use AI to help students see their writing strengths, as you've seen kind of an example on now, maybe, and why writing skills just becomes more and more important. And what kind of knowledge, skills, and attitudes we think are needed for AI literacy. And recently, I read an article by David Cutler, a high school teacher and an Editopia writer, and he makes this point that generative AI is not a magic fix for education. And at best, it can support learning. We really do think it can, but it will never replace the essential role of skilled teachers, working directly with students through the slow, hard, but meaningful process of learning. So we completely agree to that. And in our tool, AI is designed with two goals. For teachers, we use it to create teachable moments. So it highlights writing techniques and literary devices in real time, as you saw. That opens the door for meaningful discussions and learning. And for students, we use it to motivate and to build confidence, to inspire them to put in the hard work that it takes to grow as writers. So for us, it's kind of simple. We support the teacher and motivate the student. That's how we use AI. That's kind of our philosophy behind it. But I mean, so what kind of AI literacy do teachers and students really need? For us, it can be viewed from three different perspectives: knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And the first perspective is knowledge. What do we need to know about AI? And firstly, AI is not a replacement for creativity. It's a partner. So our implementation of AI doesn't write for students. That's really important. Instead, it sets up the conditions to make writing more engaging, collaborative, and reflective. And secondly, AI thrives on patterns. So it works by spotting and remixing patterns in language. And that's really powerful, but that's also kind of limited because it doesn't really think like a human. And in our platform, this becomes more of an advantage because by detecting patterns in students' texts, the tool opens new teachable moments. And even when the AI gets it wrong, it sometimes does, that's still a chance for rich discussions about why. So I mean, so this and third, what's important to know is that AI is already shaping literacy right now, and students will meet AI in school, they will meet it at home, they will meet it in their future job, everywhere. So knowing this helps us see why practicing authentic writing and critical thinking is more important than ever, actually. So that's the knowledge part, I think. So, and you just have to stop me, but the skills part is what do we need to be able to do with AI? Skill number one is writing in the future, writing to instruct AI. Good writing now includes the ability to guide AI and asking the right questions, designing meaningful prompts. That's a skill that empowers both teachers and students. So, and skill number two is to, I guess, to reflect and critique. Our AI, for example, gives feedback and points out techniques, but I think that students must still ask, does this feel authentic? Does it serve my purpose? How can I improve it? And skill number three, to integrate, I mean, for the teacher to integrate it in a meaningful way. AI should be used to scaffold struggling writers, inspire brainstorming, I think, and encourage peer learning, not as a shortcut, but as a kind of a catalyst. To us, this is a very, very important point when it comes to AI literacy.
Yes.
And I have something about, I mean, the attitudes is the last part. How should we kind of view AI? First, I would say that choose curiosity over fear. And AI is something to explore critically and not something to kind of resist blindly, I think. Second, it's like I'm in charge. It comes from me. Agency matters. That students should feel empowered to say, I am the author. The writing tool is for thinking and problem solving, and AI should serve me as a student or serve them, not the other way around. So, and the third attitude is more like about balance and ethics, I think. I mean, in our classrooms, we will write. Writing is social, and everyone takes part, no matter where they start from. So equity is not just about who gets access to AI, it's about how we use it together, I guess, to close gaps and to help everyone grow side by side. That's also very important to us, the way we use it. So that's kind of our take on AI literacy and how we use it in our platform.
I love that. And Shannon, I'm seeing you kind of shaking your head. I'm really interested to hear your perspective from the future ready librarian space, and just as a librarian who's been, obviously a champion for literacy ever since you started this career. Where do you see that fitting in? Where is the librarian perspective in all this?
Well, I'm excited because we've been using WeWillWrite at Van Meter and since last spring. And as a librarian, it's really great because being able to bring these tools to our teachers and to our students, and to be able to support these skills that we want them to have, not just in writing, but being able to think critically, being able to be a storyteller, being able to connect to each other as they write using AI. And I'm really excited. We're not going to share it today because it's not public yet, but I'm really excited because our new framework is coming out for future ready librarians. So those of you who are a librarian, or even if you're in a school, this will be in the next month. Our 3.0 version comes out, and it includes a lot around AI, including like adding AI literacy to what we do and support as librarians, how we guide like responsible use within our school. Again, being able to use a tool like WeWillWrite and Book Creator too, and being able to not only support our teachers through that collaboration, but being able to be so creative on how we're supporting our students and just champion and showing them how to use these tools has been so exciting and so great.
I love that. I'm very excited for the framework to be coming out. I know we have been talking about it for some time. I know we're working on some really fun Book Creator assets to go along with it, but we have one that actually I can share right now that I think aligns well with the framework and what ISTE's doing right now with sort of the portrait of a graduate and things like that. But this is a book that we built after Richard Collada from ISTE released that portrait of an AI-ready graduate. And essentially, it's still being articulated, but it has some 6 competencies in here that I know really ring true with a lot of the future ready librarian framework pieces here. And so there's just this huge connection. We're very excited to have this portfolio available for you to go and remix. You can add this right into your student libraries and have students make a copy of this. And it's essentially ready to give to students, where you would simply document the artifacts that show that you have done one of these pieces and that you've interacted with these tools. And it can be a great guide for teachers as well to see where they should be incorporating AI into their classrooms. So I am so thankful for the 3 of you for being here. I just peeping through the chat and just seeing all of the kudos. Josie, people really loved the way you demoed that and showed off those different pieces and got to see it. And I know we had quite a few people participate in that. So hopefully if you got a feel for the game and you saw how it runs, it's really stimulating. I mean, Josie said she can get students to write for a whole class period. So check that out. And then if you want to continue to participate, I see people jumping into this library with all of our books. This is a great way to sort of follow that up. Remember, right at the end of every one of those WeWillWrite activities, the students are prompted to copy their work. And so it's likely that you're already going to have something up for them to bring that work into. We think Book Creator is a great place to do that because you can already have a structured, established place for them to bring those prompts into. So
it's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's just a match made in heaven. Really, I do. And that perspective on AI was just, I thought it was just so spot on, especially when you were talking about for teachers, it's there to help you create teachable moments. That is such a good way, I think, of framing out what AI should be doing for us as educators, and that for students, they should feel like it's helping them be more creative, or helping them get motivated, or be more excited, or more confident. And I think that's great, especially to hear you say curiosity over fear. So I just have to thank you all so much for stepping in and for just taking part in this webinar. I am seeing on my screen, do any of you want to say anything, finish this out, wrap this up?
Just one more thing, David. We have made some special writing challenge sets, especially for digital citizenship and this kind of themes that are perfect to start off with in WeWillWrite, and then copy the text and then go into, because we have made some books at Book Creator as well that they can paste them into, right?
Yes. Yes, so we have created support books. Oh gosh, I didn't have these pulled up, that you can use, and they are available inside of the resource book that we are using for this entire AI Literacy Week. So if you sign up to receive our big master AI literacy book, it's going to have all of those resources available, as well as a link right to the WeWillWrite game space, where you can go and pick out the writing prompts that you want to use. So, Katie Fielding always saves me. So they are in our student template Discover library under digital citizenship and SEL. And these books go right along with the WeWillWrite activities that you'll find in their Discover library. So literally, we've got this set for you. You can remix this right into the student's library. And as they are answering these prompts over in WeWillWrite, you have a space for them right to take it over to here with all the visuals set up. WeWillWrite has done an incredible job of putting these together with amazing prompts and some amazing images to go with them. So it's really exciting and fun way for the students to get to write and then bring that over into Book Creator. So we're really excited about having all those resources that are available in Discover, or you can sign up to get all of the resources in one big giant book from the entire AI Literacy Week right to your inbox. So should jump in. I know they're all over the comments, those links to sign up and get that resource book. So get in there and check it out. All right. Thank you, Aaron, for reminding me to say that. And thank you, Shannon, for being here, for sharing a sneak peek, and Josie for just being amazing educator that you are, and treating us a little bit how you treat your students, which I'm sure is incredible. I am, now we're going to transition a bit, so stay in your seats. We're going to say bye-bye to the WeWillWrite crew, and we're going to start bringing on, we're not going to bring them on just yet. Oh, we are, look who it is. We're getting one, Ken is here. I've been seeing these names pop in for the last one. I'm like, oh, my friends are showing up. We got Ken, we got Matt Miller, we got Holly Clark, we got Alana Winnick, and then Yaritza. Look at this. Folks, we are kicking it off. We're not stopping. It is a doubleheader today. Someone's in a school, and I love that. All right, that is great. That is great. Matt Miller back in the classroom. Oh, and there's Holly. All right. So I want to give a quick frame before we kick things off, because we have got 5 really solid questions that I want everyone to have an opportunity to read. We also have 5 folks that all need to introduce themselves if no one already knows who they are. And I want to explain a little bit about how we're doing this. So we submitted all these questions to the panelists. We let them rank, sort, vote their favorite ones. And then we use this crazy tool, and it's essentially assigned who's going to answer each question. So everyone's going to get an opportunity to speak. Everyone's voice is going to be heard. And we're going to have a great time. I don't want to say a single more word because I want to give as much airtime to these guests as I possibly can. So why don't we start off with Yaritza? Why don't you introduce yourself to the crowd and say, we'll just kind of, you can just pass it to somebody and we'll go all the way around the circle.
I'll keep this short. Hello, everyone. I'm Yaritza Villalba. I am the CEO and founder of McKinsey's Adventures. We're a global EdTech consulting company working with schools and EdTech companies across 6 continents. I'm excited to be a part of this panel, and I see some lovely faces that I know. So, hey, y'all. I'm passing it on to Ken.
I don't think he heard.
Ken, it's your go. Tag. You're in.
Yeah. No. I can hear. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
We good. Yeah, I was making sure that my settings were to the right microphone. Okay. Hey. Wow, this is gonna be fun. So for those of you on the broadcast who don't know me, I'm Ken Shelton. I am an educator based in Los Angeles. I've been around for a minute, and I'll just say that I get to be on a panel with literally all like my peeps. So I will pass it off to what is to my left, which is Alana.
We don't hear you, Alana. We don't hear you. Be muted.
While Alana figures out
All right, how about Holly then?
I will jump in and say I'm Holly Clark. I am the author of some infused classroom books, but more importantly, I spend a lot of time with teachers, coaches, and leaders around the globe thinking about AI literacy in deep and meaningful ways that put pedagogy first.
Love that. Alana, you want to give another shot?
Try it again. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We have no mic, so it's just I hope it's good quality audio. This is such a fun panel with so many familiar faces. So this is really, really such a fun thing for me. My name's Alana Winnick. I'm an educational technology director and data protection officer of a school district located just outside of New York City. I also sit on the board of directors for NiceGate, where some of these familiar faces have been before. I wrote a book about generative artificial intelligence. I have a podcast where many of them have been on as well, called The Generative Age. And as you saw on Monday, I also have an organization called Students for Innovation, where we empower students to advocate for change in their schools. And thank you, Book Creator, for hosting them. It was such a highlight for them because they're such big fans.
Love it.
And
last but not least, on his birthday.
Yep, you guys have figured that out apparently. Well, hey everyone, good to see you. Glad I get to share my birthday with you today. My name's Matt Miller. I taught high school Spanish for more than 10 years in schools here in West Central Indiana. And as you can see, I am back in the classroom, coming to you from my classroom today. I've written 6 books, including one called AI for Educators, and I do professional development with schools and school districts all over the United States, and have been just trying to wrap my brain around all of this AI literacy stuff that everybody else has as well. And I highly, highly respect everybody on this panel, and I'm really excited about the conversation. So thank you, David, and thank you, Book Creator, for pulling this together.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure and honor to get to spend so much time with so many amazing minds. I think you all are definitely deserve to be sitting here. And I think the folks listening, after hearing those introductions, should definitely feel a confidence in the responses that you give to the questions, because the global perspective that we have sitting in the room right now, and the connection that these people have, the conversations that they're having across networks are just incredible. So I know that we lean on them at Book Creator for all types of advice and for words of wisdom. And so I hope that you also do that as well. Now, I'm going to bring onto stage a special guest who is visiting us from CAST. You might know CAST as the folks who wrote UDL. I don't know if you knew this. UDL has an author. It's CAST. But I would love to bring on Brian. There he is, Brian Dean. How are you? How are you?
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am telling you what, like a banger of a panel, y'all. Like I'm excited to just hear, just to soak up the end. How's it going?
Great, and it's wonderful to have you, Brian, here. We're so excited that you are going to be reading off our very first question.
Yeah, so I get to throw out the first pitch. I hope that it makes it across the plate. I've never really ever done that before, so this is exciting for me. But here at CAST, you know, that we are focused on UDL, and we are focused on inclusive education, and we're focused on access and accessibility for individuals. just in general, not just in education, but anywhere. And so the first question is really about that idea of, as we get into this new era, this new moment, this new phase, this whatever it may be called, this thing that's happening around AI, how do leaders ensure AI initiatives are equitable, and so that they support all learners, including multilingual learners, including students with disabilities, including students from marginalized communities? I think that's the big question.
All right. And I appreciate you, Brian. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about CAS. We love you guys. That's UDL is everywhere. An incredible resource.
That's what we hope.
Yes.
That's what we're hoping.
We are going to ask Yaritza to respond first, and then we'll open it up to Matt, Alana, and then the rest of the panel.
Thank you. So for those of you who are new to my work, this is like the first time I'll be sharing this with you then. I have a history in teaching students who are overage and undercredited, right? So most of my students were 16 to 21 reading on a 4th grade reading level. And so I've always advocated for the co-design or the collaborative process. And I feel like that is huge when we're talking about equity in AI, which means realistically, we have to involve multilingual families, students with disabilities, communities that are often overlooked and underserved, even when thinking about initiatives that might just be about prompt engineering, right? Because it's not just about, putting in a prompt and then receiving an output and using that. It should be about equity. It should be about thinking about biases early on. What are those barriers going to be, especially for bilingual speakers? As a former ESL student, I knew and I witnessed how hard it was for my mom to communicate with teachers. I knew how hard it was for my mom to be able to feel like she was included in a lot of the events that schools would put on. Now that I actually promote AI across schools in New York, we focus on how do we leverage AI to advocate for our own students, but our families. And so thinking about some of the workshops that I've done where I'm, yes, teaching prompt engineering, but I'm also asking parents to dig deep and ask the AI chat box, questions like, how does this align with the Title I funding that my child's school is going to receive? How do I advocate for my child who has an IEP? What are these 24 pages of an IEP actually saying about the resources that my child needs? So I believe that school leaders have to do a better job at understanding who their community is, and then allowing students and also families to not only advocate for themselves, but play a role in how those initiatives are going to impact the entire school.
Matt, Alana?
Yeah. So Yaritza just mentioned barriers and how we can try to bring some of those barriers down to try to promote equity and everything. I just wanted to touch on a barrier that I know is a very felt one here in our school district, and it has to do with the access to broadband internet in our very rural communities, right? Yeah, Ken, I know we've had that conversation before, but I live in a very, very rural part of Indiana where not everybody has access to the internet. And if they do, then it's really, really spotty. And so, if we want to sort of start from the ground and build up, if we're thinking about a house and we're going to build that foundation first, we have to make sure that that infrastructure is in place. We can't start talking about apps and initiatives and all of that stuff until we have that infrastructure in place. So for us, that goes back to making sure that students have access to the devices, that they have access to internet. And by the way, when we're talking about access to the internet, that doesn't mean that you have a McDonald's or a public library in your school district and just go there, because we all know that that's not the same situation as someone being able to go home, get in a quiet environment and sit down and be able to fully focus. That's not equity. So I think the other thing I really, really want to thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. But the other thing I wanted to address when it comes to all of this is that whenever we start talking about, with AI right now, there's a lot of talk about, let's just get rid of the tech. Let's just get rid of the tech and go back to the paper and go back to all of those things. We have to remember that if we're talking about accessibility and inequity, we have to remember that a lot of our students depend on that technology for accessibility features. So when we start to take those out, we start to lower the access that they have to those accessibility features. So those are just a couple of the points that I wanted to touch on.
I love that. Alana, final points for this question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out, I think it's ironic that Ken's not answering this question. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say after us, but I just think that we need to train educators. They don't understand that there's a difference between equity and equality, and I see that across the board, that equity is much different than equality. The population I serve, even though I live in Westchester County, we are only 38% white, and I send a lot of students home with hotspots, as Matt touched upon. I also, if you watched my presentation on Monday, you saw that I had a student who had access to all these features, who needed them, and then was removed from him. So I think when we talk about equity and equality, that access to these tools shouldn't depend on who the child's teacher is, because a lot of times right now with AI, it depends on who they have as a teacher and who feels confident and comfortable and who's resistant and scared. So I just want to point that out about this conversation. And I also think that what I do is I start actually with the student support services team, and they usually have a lot more time to be pulled out of the classroom because they're not the ones responsible for the general education. So it's easier for me to get access to them. And then they're the ones that are creating the resources and materials for the students that actually need it for equitable reasons. But then in turn, those teachers are now using it for all students. So then we get the little piece of equality in there. But I think that if you make it about equity, no one's going to argue you. No one's going to fight you. Those teachers are going to learn, and they're going to create resources that are valuable for everyone. And once that gen ed teacher sees what it looks like in their classroom, then they're going to be like, oh, wow, that worked. How do I do that? And you just get more people a little bit more interested in it. So that's actually where I started. And I just want to point out, we did have 2 students with learning differences on the call on Monday. Kent is an ENL student, and Mackenzie, who I met actually through Holly, has dyslexia, and we learned about how AI helps them as learners. And I think bringing students into the conversation is so important. Providing them with all these accessibility tools is life-changing. What we heard from them, life-changing. And then having them literally talk to adults. I had them open for my superintendent's conference day. I had them speak here. When you hear a child as young as elementary school talk about how it helps learners, now every teacher that heard them is like, okay, I need to step up. And I know that I have experts in the room, and using those students as experts in the conversation. So as leaders, I think I hate this, but well, no, I don't hate this part. We need to set clear guidelines and expectations. What I hate saying is minimum expectations, but there is a minimum expectation, and you have to clearly define what that is as a leader and follow through with it. And I'm going to get to that in other questions here. But as a leader, when you are doing observations, you have to understand what this could and should look like, because the teachers may not care about what the director of technology says. But if their building leader or the person giving them an observation writes in the observation what they could and should have done to support all learners, then they're going to listen. So it's really important to get the building leaders on board.
I love that.
Wow.
Short.
Come on. I mean, I feel like I did throw the great pitch. There is nothing in any of those comments and all the animated clapping and everything in the background that I could disagree with. In fact, I found myself wanting to stand up and be like, say it again for the people in the back. Like, yo, like you were dropping the reality. So I do appreciate you taking that question. I appreciate everybody's thoughtful answer.
All right. Well, Brian, there is no better organization to be representing equity than CAST. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Can I drop a shameless plug? Can I drop a shameless plug? All right. Sorry, everybody. I got to drop it. At CAST, we have opened up our UDL and AI community on Mighty Networks. We opened it 2 weeks ago, and we're at 1,600 educators, y'all. 1,600 educators and leaders and people throughout the world that want to talk about how do we blend these things around UDL and access and accessibility and inclusive technology with AI. How do we build literacy around them? So if you get a chance, please come join us in the conversations. We have subgroups that we're building. We have expert talks and AI thought leaders are part of our advisory board, and having chats every month. So, and we're only 2 weeks in, y'all. So like it's looking like it's going to be just a roller coaster of a ride, a lot of fun. So anyways, thank you for everybody for your time.
Thank you, Brian. And just a reminder to folks watching, if you want a link to join that community, it is in the giant resource book that we have created for this. And Katie has put that link up on the screen periodically. It's a bit.ly. You can click on that to get access. I want to address just one little thing that Alana said about why didn't Ken answer that question first? Ken voted highly on that question, but he voted higher on another question. So every single speaker will be the first person to answer at least one question, and it will be the question that they chose highest on the list. Just, I want to be, because we were really certain that we wanted this to be equitable for everyone, because all of you are absolutely brilliant and could answer all of these questions probably at length and talk at that until your face is blue. Okay. Question number 2, and Katie's going to start putting these in the comments as well so that folks can also read them out loud. But what policies, training, and resources should leaders prioritize to build AI literacy across their school community? And Alana, we're going to have you start this one off, and then we're going to open it up to Ken and Holly.
So Ken and I are laughing, and I'm so excited that Ken follows me on this question because I think there's a very big difference between position, a policy, and guidelines. I think it's very important for a leader to have a position and a teacher to have a position with their students on where you stand, because it's very confusing for students when they walk from classroom to classroom and what's okay in one class is not okay in another class. And then they're getting yelled at for doing one thing, but across the hall, that's completely acceptable. So that's where I think the position, the policy, and the guidelines come to play. I personally don't believe that you need an AI specific policy. Maybe some people might argue with me. Ken doesn't argue with me anymore. He used to think that. I'm just going to give him a little shout out. And we had a little heated debate over dinner one night at COSIN, and I think I changed his perspective, and maybe I'll let him talk about that when it's his turn. I think that you can revise your existing policies for a world with artificial intelligence, and I don't even have the word AI in there. I just really talk about academic integrity, handing in work that's reflective of your own thoughts, your own ideas, and your own voice, and I think my students really clearly define that they don't think it's cheating if you are copy and pasting it. This is exactly like it is with media literacy. There's really nothing different. It's just AI literacy. So then with the guidelines, and that's district level, school level, and classroom level guidelines, and really assignment by assignment guidelines, because what's acceptable in one class may not be acceptable in the other class. What's acceptable on one assignment may not be acceptable on an assignment tomorrow in the same class with the same teacher. So I think clearly defining what's acceptable on the assignment is so important. And we have a whole question on frameworks, and I know Ken will probably go wild on that one too. But I think just saying this is what's okay, this is what's not okay for assignments is important. As I talked about before, that minimum expectation of what we expect teachers to do in their classrooms is super important. And then Holly and I, so in my district, we have a 3-phased approach when we roll anything out. It's year 1, what we need to do, year 2, what we want to do, and year 3, what we aspire to. Holly and I took that framework and we actually developed it into like an AI framework. And maybe she'll even talk about it when it's her turn. But I didn't like years with this because I have some teachers that are on year 3 and year 1. So that's why we call them phases. And the way that Holly and I talked it out was, we want teachers to try it and use it, right? And then the ultimate goal is for students to use it, right? And so that would be the phase 3, but some teachers might get to that in a month or 2. So I think developing this phases of a rollout and then helping teachers that are at different points get to those points. But then we talk about like how we train and how we get there. It's not just how to use a tool, like click, but how to think critically about AI, how creating resources or using resources that emphasize ethical use, teaching about bias, misinformation, transparency, academic integrity. I think it's important to involve students and families in these conversations. As you heard from my students, they teach teachers. So I have Innovation Club, I have AI Club, I'm starting AI Junior Club, and we have pop-up events. So if they don't want to join a whole club, once a month, they come and they learn about skills, both students and teachers. And I think it's really about coming up with these resources to build capacity And if you, I don't have a STEM teacher. I don't have a tech integration person. It's just me. And I'm able to do this because I have an army of children that are capable and ready to support me in this mission, because they know what it could and should look like. And I just work with them and educate them and provide them with the knowledge, skills, and tools they need to support their teachers. And so you don't need to have resources to do this. You can have nothing and still do it.
Ken, Holly, you want to chime in?
I think Ken's next, so.
Yeah, either one of you.
Yeah, I am. I was just dropping a comment in the chat. So
He's longer than that chat.
I will say this. It's not a coincidence, and it's actually cool. It's not a coincidence that Alana, myself, and Holly are the three for this question. So I'll share with everyone who's listening a little background. Early on, to Alana's point, it was a conversation we had this past March. So early on, I was of the mindset that you have your digital use policy and then you have your AI policy. And in the context of our conversation, Alana was able to reveal several things to me around this, and I am in full agreement, is that ultimately, if you think about responsible digital use, it's not dissimilar to the things that we would want with AI. But when you get into the whole idea around policy, the one thing I keep seeing as missing, and I know we have this question coming up later, is when you get into the policies, the resources, and the professional development, is a question I ask all the time. Like, first of all, before we get into that, how do you define AI literacy? Like, let's just start there, because you can't expect educators, students, adult caregivers, you can't expect them to fully contextualize what your purpose is and what the context is of using AI if you don't even have a definition of AI literacy. And no, I don't think you should be using others' definitions. And this is why I always pose this question. If I'm an 11th grade science teacher, let's say I'm an 11th grade biology teacher, should my definition and use case of AI be the same as a 2nd grade teacher? And the answer is no, it shouldn't. And so the whole idea around doing this one size fits all and turning it into a binary and oversimplifying it is really not helpful with many of the things that you're seeing come up in the chat. The disparities around what is academic integrity and what is not, the way it's used, even what was shared by everyone in the previous question around addressing a digital divide. Holly put a comment in the chat that I don't think people talk about enough, and that is, if I'm in a high school and I've got 5 classes and I go into one class and the teacher's using AI, they've defined it, they're encouraging me to use it, they're demonstrating ethical and responsible use, they're demonstrating ethical leadership, and then the very next class I go to, no, you can't use it. If you use it, I'm going to use a detector. You're going to get busted. First of all, that's inequity. Second of all, that is a way of subversively creating a digital divide. But also going to the point of this question, it's what's the foundational definition of AI literacy? And then based upon that, what policies need to be implemented, whether they be at a board level, an administrative level, a school level, or a departmental level, that reinforces that definition, and then what resources and supports are provided to operationalize that definition. You see, I can talk about the need to understand systems and understand how AI systems work, but it means nothing if I can't provide that understanding in context and specific use cases. And this is why I always ask, how do you define it? What's the context? And then if you can give me examples, where are your receipts to back those examples?
Okay, so I want to say something too, and sometime we're going to have to talk about this. One of the things that we did wrong in the digital, when we got computers, is we focused on digital literacy and we never talked about digital fluency. I tried, but it never got that far. So I'm wondering if at some point we need to talk about AI fluency for teachers and what that means to be fluent in something rather than just literate. Because when I take a language, I can be literate, I can read, but I'm not fluent until I can go do those things. And I'm wondering if we should start to think about the AI fluency. We also need to think about and empower our coaches to be on the side, helping teachers at the beginning when they're scared. And then we also need to think about how it is we use these student-centered examples to show teachers how powerful it can be. So we're talking about policies, but those policies have to be supported by some of these other things. And I think it's time, it might be time, and I'm going to want to know what my friends say about this someday. Like, do we shift to fluency a little bit and like start talking about teachers using these tools and understanding how to use them correctly, rather than just know what the literacy of it is? I don't know. This just like came out right now when Kim was talking.
David, can I share a quick response to that?
I was hoping you would.
And by the way, I want to emphasize this to everyone who's watching, which Yaritza, we haven't crossed paths in a minute, unfortunately in person, but hopefully soon. But I do think it's important that we're here because of Book Creator and doing this. Hopefully folks are starting to see a little bit of a through line here that all of us talk all the time. And I think that's a big part of our approach here, is to not learn in isolation, to recognize that even the example I just shared with Alana, I had one stream of thought. We had a healthy, good conversation like we always do, which I have with Holly and Matt all the time as well. And it helps us frame some of our thinking, get additional perspectives. And then that's when we're able to share that even further with everyone, like in the context of this. But what I wanted to share in response with Holly is I put it in the chat. My definition of AI literacy includes acumen, fluency, and bias. Acumen, I understand how AI systems work. We keep using AI, but keep in mind, AI is a descriptor for digital technologies. What's commonly called AI right now is more often than not referring specifically to large language models. Okay, so that's one. So acumen, do you know how AI systems work? And this is where, when you get into the policy thing, I laugh out loud when I hear things like, we block all AI. And then I respond and I'm like, so that means you block spell check, you block grammar checks. Oh, you also turned off your email spam filters. You see, that's the acumen. You got to understand the systems. What systems do you knowingly and unknowingly use, and how do they work? The fluency, to Holly's point, what I always describe is, if you have an AI fluency, that is a convergence of your comfort, your confidence, and your competence in using those systems ethically and responsibly. And then the bias part for me is recognizing that all of these systems are humanly constructed and they use human data, which means they are susceptible to the biases of the humans who are designing them, as well as the data that is prioritized and how these systems operate. That's how I define AI literacy, is in those three areas. And I think Holly's point, which is why I want to share this comment, is fluency often gets overlooked because people prioritize functional skills and not critical thinking skills, and not the depth of how they're using many of these artificial intelligence systems.
Okay. I love this defining and this banter that's happening, not banter, this dialogue that's happening back and forth. And I think it's so important.
And you're basically hearing a phone call between me and Ken.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now.
All right. Well, it's interesting that you ended on this topic of skills, and I want to stay there, but I want to shift the audience a bit. So let's think for a moment about students. What skills do students need to critically evaluate and responsibly use AI tools in their learning? And how can schools help them develop those skills? We're going to start with Matt, and then we're going to turn it over to Holly and Yaritza.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up too, because I think sometimes we get a little bit misguided on the skills, and we start thinking that we need to teach kids AI specific skills and how do you use ChatGPT and how do you do all that stuff. Well, first of all, a lot of the technology and a lot of the apps, like the day-to-day apps that we use today right now, are going to be totally transformed or gone or integrated by the time they hit the workforce in 3, 5, 10, 15 years, something like that. So what we really need, as we keep sort of alluding to here, is we need those AI literacy understandings and skills. And so we can talk, and maybe some of my colleagues on the panel here will want to talk. We can talk about some of those AI specific things. But I think for me, what it still really, really comes down to, if we're talking about the key crucial skills that students are going to need to be able to survive and thrive in a world full of AI, a lot of them come back to those timeless thinking skills that we've been teaching kids for so long anyway. We still need to double down on, Yaritza, I heard you talking about this earlier a little bit too, those critical thinking skills, those problem solving skills. We want to double down on creativity. We want to do all of that stuff. because, of course, if we get something from AI, it's only good to us if we understand what it's giving us and what we can do with it. Otherwise, we're just sort of like blindly passing it along as if it were our own. And, we don't know if there are hallucinations or inaccuracies or biases in it. And we also aren't able to put our own human touch on it. I kind of think of it, to use an analogy, I like to think of it like a woodworker. If you get somebody who doesn't know anything about woodworking, but they step into a woodworker's shop and they're looking around, and there's all of these tools on the wall, hanging on the wall and in drawers, and they're looking at all these tools, and they have everything that they need in front of them to be a skilled woodworker. And yet they still don't have the skills and the understandings necessary to do anything with it. They got a heap of wood over here in the corner. They've got all of these tools here, and they are totally stuck and lost. And so that's why I think, we were talking earlier about equity and about building the foundation on access and on infrastructure and on internet and, all of those basic fundamental things. I think this is the exact same thing. This is building a solid foundation on those timeless skills. And one of the things that I love to remind teachers about this, especially the teachers that are a little bit nervous or uncomfortable with the changing nature of AI and how it's starting to change the landscape and everything. You know what teachers have been great at for ages? That exact stuff. All of those timeless thinking skills and the problem solving and the critical thinking, all of that stuff, teachers have been fantastic at that already. So I like to remind teachers that we are uniquely and perfectly positioned to prepare students for that future. You don't need to go get a degree in computer science. You don't need to be a tech geek and have all of this specific knowledge about how AI works. Some of that stuff is going to help you, but really, if we can help students to be good, solid thinkers and problem solvers, that's one of the biggest sets of skills that I think that they can get.
And that's going to take me to my question. My answer is it all comes back to something that I presented on from the teens in the 2000s, and I let go because I thought everyone had got past it. But I used to do a session on questions and asking good questions and how we can get students through these protocols of asking good questions. And right now, everything comes back to that. What questions can kids ask? How can that give them agency? And so those skills need to focus first on inquiry, the problem-based learning, the things that we've been talking about that have been really hard for us to do when you have a bunch of kids in a class, getting the resources to do that. We now have the resources and we can teach kids to ask better questions. And that should be what we take away. And QFT is exactly it. And I actually did one the other day. I was in, I think, I can't even remember the state I was in. And I did a QFT with AI, and it was just mind-blowing the way that went down. So I'm going to stop there and just say questions.
And I'll add, when do we become a society that just believes everything that we read and see? I've asked that to my niece who just started college, and I said, since when do you just believe every single thing that you see online? We have to go back to teaching our students how to fact check. Just because an AI chat box might have given you a response, ask it to give you the references. And if it cannot give you the references, then do it old school way, right? Things still work. And so thinking about the idea of the responsible use of AI tools, fact checking, fairness, privacy. I had a conversation with Access Bank in Nigeria. And what I thought was so awesome was they did not care too much about me sharing AI tools. It was more of, how do you teach the skill of fact checking? How do we know that our students are learning about algorithmic fairness or data privacy? What are the cultural biases that exist? What are some assumptions that folks are making when they're introducing AI to families and students? And just digging deep into what ethical awareness is. And I know, David, during our session yesterday, I talked a lot about this, about, being transparent when we are introducing students to new tools, but saying, hey, you should not heavily rely on that specific response. You should dig deeper and find out if this actually makes sense, right? If it's actually true or trustworthy.
You know, as we were having this conversation, we were bringing things up. There's one more little one that I wanted to incorporate in here too. If we're talking about these skills that students are going to need as we go forward and as we develop their AI literacy and everything, this isn't so much like evaluate and responsibly use AI, but I still think it's crucial and it's part of the conversation. That's curiosity.
Yeah.
I think curiosity is huge. If you're not curious about something, then learning sort of becomes drudgery and it becomes something that someone else is imposing on you. But if you're curious about something, then you will go dig as long as you need necessary to satisfy that curiosity, right? And so if we put curiosity at the forefront, then in a world full of information, when all of the world's information is at our fingertips, and now we have artificial intelligence that can help us to understand and make sense and to be able to digest all of that, our curiosity will take us so far. And that's something that AI can't really give us in the same way. So I went to an event at Google not too long ago. They had an AI education event, and one of the slogans for one of the presentations said, "The future belongs to the curious." And I thought there's a lot of things that I wasn't like a huge fan of in that presentation, but I loved that slogan. The future belongs to the curious. I think it's so true.
You know, and that perfectly aligns with what Aaron said from WeWillWrite on the previous call. He said, just choose curiosity over fear, even if you're a little apprehensive. So I love that. I love that we brought that up. We have a minute or two. Yaritza, final thoughts. Ken or Alana to chime in on anything that anyone said before we move to the next question. Cool. Okay. Moving on. Next question. How can coaches, and when I say coaches here, I'm talking about that support role. It could be TOSA, ed tech coach. There's 1,000 names for them. Address the different comfort levels and perceptions educators may have about AI, ranging from excitement to skepticism. And we are going to open this one up first to Holly, and then Ken, and then Matt.
So I have a lot of experience in this. I work with a lot of coaches right now. And what we kind of look at together when we get that opportunity to kind of talk through this is this idea of meeting educators where they are, listening first, validating concerns as our first step. Second step is sort of scaffolding the learning, entry-level demos of times when students have used this successfully, exploration challenges whenever you're doing any kind of training, and then making leaders of the people who are your early adopters so that they can help kind of garner the excitement in the room or in your school. I also think that having a bunch of tools in your school right now, and some people are like, I want to use this AI tool and this AI tool and this AI tool. Change management doesn't happen in that way. So I think it's super important to consider looking at 2, maybe 3 tools that could help you meet your learning outcomes. What are those? What are you trying to do? And are there some AI experiences that could help with that could blend learning? And then keeping to those so that at the water cooler, this teacher's talking about it, this teacher, and it's not every teacher just picking something shiny kind of thing. And then reframing the narrative around equity, and for like neurodivergent learners like myself, that this is going to help them. And looking at those examples for that, because as a person with dyslexia, I hear teachers, language arts teachers that I work with all the time saying, I'm going to go back to just pen and paper, blue books I've heard used. And that sort of teaching experience is the exact teaching experience that almost made me not be able to graduate from high school. I came around and I got it, and I got good grades because I got into a good school, but I had to fight. And I'm telling you, fight to do that because my teachers didn't understand my needs. And now I have this superpower in AI for my needs. And when a teacher is going to take that away, they're taking the rug out from kids like me. And it's just not acceptable and quite sad. So I'll get off my dyslexia thing, but I've started to share my dyslexia thing. I never did before because of what AI can do for it, and that we need to understand that.
Thank you.
So again, I'm going to point out something to everybody that these are conversations that we're having now, but we have these often. So to Holly's point, and I know Matt is going to chime in as well, I want to say all of us on this panel, we in varying degrees work with either coaches, teachers, instructional leaders, all of the above. And you pose part of the question, I'm going back to it on my notes here. So part of the question is to look at how do you address the different comfort levels and perceptions. So I'm going to drop in the chat real quick. These are 2 different sentence starters that I use all the time around that. And the whole idea there is to directly address those, not skirt around the issue, not, create a facade. It's no, name the thing, because the whole idea around this is the following. So I'll paint a picture of a recent PD that I led. So you had probably about, I'd say 40% of the staff was like excited, like, oh, it's possible, it's awesome, blah, 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 blah. Then you had about, I'd say 30% of the staff that their approach to AI was a bit tepid. They're like, well, it's here, I don't know. And then you had the percentage of staff that always is the case that wants to dig their heels in, and they're going to engage in what I describe as bad faith arguments. It's cheating, it's plagiarism. To Holly's point right now, where I just saw it and I really wanted to submit a counterpoint to it, was where, like in higher ed, that professors are going back to using blue books for assessments. And so the whole idea here is to really discern the difference between perception and reality. And then based on that perception, what part of it is rooted in fact and what part of it is rooted in what I describe as bad faith arguments, i.e. a reconstruction of power dynamics in a learning environment. And so I think it starts off with getting to the root cause. So if you are skeptical of it, name all the reasons why you are skeptical of it. And if you're excited about it, what are the reasons why you're excited about it? And what are the possibilities around that excitement? And I think once you start doing that, and by the way, hopefully everyone listening will see in Holly's response, mine, and I already know because Matt and I talk about this all the time, these directly correlate to how you define AI literacy, how you develop policies that account for those. And then, of course, when it comes to PD, as we all know, one size fits all does not work here. It's definitely meeting folks where they're at, and it's also showing what is possible. It was mentioned on the previous question, curiosity. Well, there's one for you. What are you most curious about? And it could be something you're skeptical of. But if you approach it from a critical thinking and open-minded perspective, then that means that your approach is also malleable, not I'm going to refortify the barriers and reconstruct the power dynamics in my learning environments so that I can reinforce conformity and compliance, but I'm going to create a facade of, well, I don't like it or we can't use it, when psychologically I know what's really going on.
So good points to add to this as far as educator comfort, which I know, even in the chat, just during this webinar, I've seen some folks, Jennifer Cronk was touching on that earlier about the fear, and she put it in all caps, I think, in her comment. So I mean, this comfort side of things is definitely an important thing. I want to fill a little gap in the conversation, a little side of the conversation that folks haven't really, that we haven't really touched on, that I believe that my fellow panelists will agree with. A couple of things. First of all, I think a healthy dose of skepticism is definitely good. Some school districts I go to, some schools, some places are going to try to, beat the drum of AI isn't going anywhere. You got to embrace it. You got to get on the bandwagon and everything. And they're basically trying to squeeze the skepticism out of people. It's that idea of trying to make all of the good stuff so big that you can't hear any of the well, it's not that you don't want to hear any of the negatives, but you also have to give some truth to that, because you want to be careful and you want to be cautious. So one thing that I think is very important that I even try to do whenever I do workshops as well is that I want to validate the skeptic. If the skeptic raises their hand and then they say, Matt, I really have concerns about X, Y, and Z, more often than not, I'll say, you know what? So do I. I'm still, in a lot of ways, some of this AI stuff terrifies me. certain things about it, you know. So I think that's one side of the conversation that's important, is that we don't want to silence our skeptics. We want to hear what they have to say because it's important, it's valid, and they're bringing up things that probably other people are thinking about too. And then here's the second thing that I wanted to add to this conversation. Like, I think it's important that we address the comfort level that teachers, there's the bell again, and it's coming again in 4 minutes, but I should be done by then. I think it's important that we address their comfort level, but if we're being honest and we're being brutally real, sometimes it's not about your feelings. You know, sometimes we've got to take what we're trying to do for students. Sometimes we've got to identify what's best for kids, and sometimes we need to change. And even if we don't like it, sometimes we need to change for the sake of our students, because if we stay in the same little 2018 bubble, or the same little 2007 bubble, or the same little 1998 bubble that we've been living in for a long time, guess what? The world has moved on, and we feel very comfortable and very safe living in that bubble. But sometimes we got to put ourselves out there, and we've got to change things for the sake of our students, because if we keep teaching in the 1998 bubble in our classrooms, then we're going to have irrelevant education, and the world is going to blow on by us, and our students are going to get out into the world and not be ready for it. So I want to address the comfort level, and I want to address the fears because they're real, and I want to address the skepticism. But I think we also have to have a healthy balance with the fact that, hey, we are trying to prepare students for the real world that they're actually going to go out in.
I just want to add one quick thing. Even if they are nervous and skeptical, I think Matt, you hit it on the head with, like, it's really equity, right? What students need, and each one may need something different. But as a leader, what you could do is build a culture where we all learn and grow from one another and fail first attempt in learning. It's okay to try something and not be successful. But I've built a culture where my little elementary students go up to their teacher when they're trying AI and go, let me see your prompt. And they help the teacher make their school AI space better. That teacher is not comfortable with AI. That teacher has no idea how to use AI, but they're trying, right? They're doing it because they have ENL students, they have students with learning differences, and they're trying their best. They don't know how to do it. But if we build a culture where students are leaders, and a teacher feels like it's okay to learn from a student and invite that student to be open-minded, that's where I think the next level of it comes from, because we don't have enough coaches or integrators to help every teacher all the time. So I think just as a leader, if you could build a culture that empowers everyone to become leaders.
Yaritza, do you want to chime in? There's still time for everyone to fill out if you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I agree with everything that was just mentioned, but I guess in my mind, I just kept saying, and stop making assumptions. Stop making assumptions about what folks already know about AI, literacy, and fluency, but also how far folks want to go. A lot of the professional development that I administer, especially with New York City public schools, is about, like Holly said earlier, meeting teachers where they are, right? Some teachers just want to know the basics about AI. And like Ken says, some may take it extremely far and create these project-based learning tasks that's all aligned to the use of AI and embedding AI skills. We cannot keep assuming as coaches that teachers just don't want to do the work. Some want to do the work, right? But there's a lot more things that are important in their classrooms. And I know for me, it's going into some Brooklyn classrooms and teachers are saying, yes, this is cool. This is a way to excite students. This is a way to impact through creativity. But some of our students haven't eaten this morning, right? So there are a lot more stressing topics that teachers are worried about when it comes to students learning than AI. So I try to go in without making an assumption that you just don't want to do it, or you're a teacher that thinks about pedagogy in the past and just say, okay, so what is it that you want? What is it that you're able to implement right now? And then how can I assist you 6 months from now?
I love that. I remember being a coach and learning about doing gap analysis. And you're saying, like, it's not always a will gap from a coach. Like, there are other things going on here. Okay, we are coming up. No question, which we're going to make sure everyone gets a chance to respond to. And then we're going to do a little bit of final thoughts. I am loving the comments and happening in the chat. It's almost as if there are two parallel conversations happening, but about the same topic. So thank you so much for people who are chiming in, adding your opinions. You can see here, we're sharing stuff on the screen. So there are several frameworks available for AI literacy, but how should a district go about choosing and selecting one that best fits their vision, their community needs, and their resources? And we're going to open it up to Ken, then Holly, Alana, and then Matt and Yaritza. You can obviously chime in.
So the question says there are several. Let's throw a number there. There's more than several dozen. Everybody's got a framework. So I'm going to directly answer the question and then provide context. How should a district go about selecting one that best fits its vision, communities, and resources? Don't. Like, I'm going to cut to the chase. Don't. Use those as a starting point to develop your own context, resources, goals, personnel, profile of a learner, capabilities of your educators, and what it looks like to level up teaching and learning. Do not try to shoehorn somebody else's framework into your context. This comes up all the time. And I've gotten into interesting conversations with folks where they'll tell me that they use somebody's framework, and I'm like, okay, who from that organization works in your school district? How much time have they spent with your teachers? How much time have they spent with your students? How much time have they spent with your education community, which includes the adult caregivers? Oh, none. Then why are you using their framework in your context? Don't do it. Use those as a guide, but develop your own. A framework in a district that is economically well-resourced is not and should not look like a framework that is in an economically under-resourced district that serves a predominantly historically excluded or marginalized student population. Don't do it. It's easy. I get it. And I understand why people do it. And there was a comment in the chat of there's a degree of fatigue around the conversation. I understand it, but I also understand why. It's this prioritization of expediency and urgency rather than being methodical, purposeful, and strategic in what you do. You don't have to keep up with that neighboring district. It's not a competition. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And if you think about the totality of our conversation here, you really want to be mindful of and intentional around all of the things that every one of us have brought up here. And that includes something like this. So that's my answer. It's that simple. Don't do it.
Does anyone want to follow Ken on that?
I'm supposed to officially, but I'd like to give my time to Matt because Matt has been thinking through this a bit because he's coming up with a new book. And so I'm ceding my time.
I yield the floor to the gentleman from Indiana.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So when it comes to selecting frameworks, I just put a wild idea into the chat here. Maybe you don't need a framework. Everybody wants to make a framework and use a framework for all of this stuff. And then we sort of like mindlessly follow it. So maybe I just wanted to put that out into the world that maybe we don't need a framework quite in that same way. Here's another thing that I'm starting to see that I'm a little bit concerned about when it comes to, finding frameworks and finding a path forward and everything, is that sometimes they get focused on using a tool as their framework. Oh, well, we use this particular app. Oh, well, we have a district license for this particular app. So we're just going to use whatever guidance they have. We're going to use that tool. We're going to use that.
I'm rolling my eyes. Sorry.
Right? Yeah. And I see it so much and I just want to scream, AI literacy is not brand loyalty. You do not have to have brand loyalty to an app to teach kids how to navigate a world full of AI. And when you do that, you just give up all of your control and all of your local specification on, you know, what your specific students need in your specific location for what they're trying to accomplish, you give up what's like beautifully human for yourself. I don't know. I have so many other thoughts when it comes to all of that. But as far as frameworks go, I really would just kick it back to what Ken was saying earlier, that you don't have to adopt somebody's framework. If you feel like you need one, if you feel like you need a guiding document that will push you forward and will help you sort of like guide your next steps and everything, then why not make one yourself? Why not make one that has all of the things that suit your students the best? So yeah, I've definitely got to agree with that.
The passion is palatable in the room, my friends, and I'm loving this. Others want to chime in on this particular topic?
I would love to. I have talked to, I think, Ken and Holly the most about this framework topic. I think Matt and I talked about it too, but definitely Holly and Matt very deeply. So the one that bothers me the most is the stoplight. I put it up for a second when I presented. Everyone takes out their phones and is like taking pictures of it. And I'm like, stop. Like, we're not doing this stoplight thing. And they get so excited about it. Like, red means no AI, green means AI, yellow's like, what is yellow? I don't even understand what does yellow mean? Like, sometimes, when is sometimes? I don't understand. I just feel like there's so much gray. And Matt has this awesome model thing. If you haven't seen it, I call it shades of gray. I don't think that's what he called it, but like, that's what I call it. And I think it really does a great job talking about, like, and I put that up and I say, okay, where are we going to draw the line? What do you consider cheating? And there's so much dialogue that happens because, like we mentioned before, what works in one district or one building or one classroom is going to vary. But then in one classroom, an assignment yesterday versus an assignment tomorrow is going to look completely different too. And some states have come up with great, like, frameworky type things. I worked with Washington State's government, and they have, instead of the three stoplight framework, it's 5. So it really breaks up that middle area into 3 sections, and they give examples, which I really liked. So if you look up Washington State, that's a good one. But I think I'm going to go back to what Ken said as well, by saying, like, what works for one place doesn't work for another. But I think you have to really start by saying, what is your district's vision? What is your district's priorities? What's important to you? Is it innovation? Is it equity? Is it college and career readiness? What is important to you? And until you bring the right players to the table, that includes parents, it includes students, it includes teachers, it includes leaders, it includes student support services, and figuring out what are you trying to solve? You can't just pick the shiniest new framework and say that's going to work for you. What problem are you solving, or what goals do you have in mind? And then I think you need to find the one that aligns with your strategic plan, with your community values. You could create your own. You can find one that is adaptable, so you can adapt it to your own community's needs. I think what's really important to consider is that it needs to be sustainable. Like, you can't just pick something. I have bells here too. I don't know if you hear them, but ours, actually, our students use musical instruments and we recorded them and we use their actual sound. So Matt, you need to step up your game, just saying. So finding one that allows you to adapt it to your own needs. So take it, DJ it, remix it, like my student said. But just, involving all stakeholders and adapting what works for you. And this is new for all of us. For anyone to come out here in 2025 and say the framework, I love to meet them and have a conversation, because we're all learning and growing as we go, and there's no one correct framework. And I could probably keep going, and I'm going to stop now.
I feel like that sentiment is, I could probably keep going. I'm feeling it. I think the chat is feeling it. It just hasn't stopped with the comments. This is a conversation that doesn't end here. It didn't start here. Ken has been saying this over and over. These are conversations that we're all having. I'm seeing people in the chat. I'm living this right now. We want to continue this conversation with you. And we want to keep having this conversation as much as we can. And so online, in the comments, if you're watching a recording, again, you can post your comments as well. Keep having this conversation with us. Keep showing up and keep fighting that good fight. I wish we had time to elaborate a bit more and give each speaker, a few minutes to give some final thoughts, but I think we're going to honor everyone's time and let it rest for now here. I am so thankful that you all chose to spend some time with us to have this conversation this week, today, and now. And your time really is the most valuable resource to you. So I'm just so thankful to all of our panelists and to everyone who watched for spending a bit of it with us. It's an honor and a privilege. We don't take it lightly. It's been a wonderful time to have you all here. And yeah, that was a fantastic panel. Please leave your comments, sign up for the resource book. And thank you. Thank you all to the panelists. Thank you.